Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And today we are doing this very cutesy illustration. If you're new here, I welcome you all. I am Becca. I started this illustration off by obviously fixing my sketch. I have recently realized that some sketches have I really need to clean them out before I start. Some of them not as much, but even though sometimes it would just kind of start taking a little longer for me to get into doing line art and everything, I do find that some of my sketches need to be a little bit more polished out, especially because, yeah, guys, I don't want to keep going and erasing 100 times my line art or having to do line art again. So I'm just fixing stuff that I need to be fixed beforehand. Though I do think I should have fixed her face a little bit more when I turn over. It still looks the same, but I think that I should have made her face a little bit more inwards. I think it's still a little bit too to the front. I should have maybe put it a little bit backwards, and also if that wasn't the problem, probably the neck position is what was bothering me. But besides that, everything in this illustration was actually very pleasing to me. I think the only real problems I had was that Windows ink is doing its weird thing where I try to do a nice crisp line art and it all of a sudden stops and restarts all over again. So it kind of looks like I'm adding dots or hashes to my illustration when I'm not. But besides that little problem with Windows ink, which I will eventually figure out how to fix that, everything was actually pretty well. This illustration was really fun to do. I loved her hairstyle. I know that it kind of ends up giving like 60s, 50s golden age actress vibes. It does look a little bit like Liz Taylor, I'm not gonna lie. It really did look like Elizabeth Taylor for me, even though I did not inspire this illustration on Elizabeth Taylor. Though it also kind of remind me of that singer. Is her name Ray? Is her name Rave? I honestly don't remember. She's the one that sings Where Is My Husband? I really like that song. I thought it was really cool. But I actually really thought this illustration was really fun, especially when I decided to go into the colors. I was just looking at it and I was just like randomly picking colors. I was like, no, I want her, since she has like this cute little short hair, I want her to have like black hair. And then all of a sudden I started looking at it and I was like, oh no, yeah, no, she's really giving golden age actress vibes here. And then I added I just gave her like blue eyes, and then I was like, yep, nope, definitely giving golden age actress here. 100% on that one. But besides that, this illustration was actually really fun to do. It did not give me any headaches. Some illustrations do give me a lot of headaches. I do end up fixing a little bit of a couple of things that I wanted to fix with her eyes. I thought the right eye was a little bit too squinted upwards, so I do fix that. And when I got into the coloring, as you guys saw when I was doing the flat layers, I actually colored in the line art for it, and it was in a gradient style because I had recently reinstalled Photoshop on my computer. And then I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to use gradient for the background. I want to see if I'm going to like it. And I loved it. It looked so pretty. The colors were just vibing. I loved how it looked with her, especially because the background is a very cold color, and it just looked so pretty with her skin and also her hair and the way I colored it in. And I loved it so much. One thing that I thought that was gonna bug me a lot was her hair. It was the one thing that I took most time to do, especially because there was a lot of curls, and this is the first time I'm doing like a hair like this. Well, actually, it's not the first time I'm doing a hair like this, because I have done an illustration where I had like hair in sort of this kind of vibe, but I didn't do it the way I wanted to. I was just starting out and I was still learning how to color in, and my art style was a little bit different. I will pop it up for you guys so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But either way, I was just very concentrated. I wanted to know like if I could do this. I was just going around making sure that I could place stuff in the correct way, especially her hair. I did use my mixer tool to make sure to blend in all the colors so it literally looked like it was just darker parts of the hair, and it did go the way I wanted to. I actually really like the way I colored in most of the curls from the right side of her hair. I like to think that she's swooshing her head around, and that's why like the hair on the left side, it kind of gives like it's the curls are kind of undoing. So I kind of love that effect to it. And I just love the fact that she just looks like someone said something audacious to her, and she just, and her face is just looks like, I'm sorry, what? um I, I just love that kind of look. I think that most art needs to have like this audacity to them, and I am a sucker for having audacity written all over them and everything. So one of the reasons I just loved this illustration was technically for her look. If I'm not making them smile, I am going to make them look disgusted at something. I don't know. I just think it's just so proper for the day and age to have this look. And from what I've seen from a lot of Hollywood movies, especially the 60s movies, especially because I love the 60s era, for so I say like the golden age of Hollywood. I love how the women literally all have this amazing aesthetic and this amazing vibe to them, especially when they're so elegant in just telling you off. And that is one thing I loved about it. So I guess this is why I love this image so much. When it came to coloring in her skin, I think the only thing I didn't actually like about this illustration, now that I'm looking at it, was I think I made her shoulder a little bit too big. But the rest of the illustration does look really great. So I think that was the only thing I had a problem with. Actually had a problem with, I did forget to put like the side of her hair. I think that's what was bugging me about this illustration. Whilst I was doing it, I was like, there's something missing, and then I figured out what was missing. But you know what? Drawing, coloring, whatever style of art that you do, learning a new language, you're always going to make a mistake, you're always going to forget something, and it's part of the learning process. One thing I wanted to do was to add in a little bit more colors to her when I start going into the shadow pass and also the light overlayer. So I was actually thinking about how I was going to do that, especially because this illustration already looked so flawless, but I needed to add extra touches to it. I do go over the hair once again, especially the right side of the hair. I do go over it with the mixer brush just to make sure that I blend in the lines that I did on her hair, just like to give it those darker strands, to make those darker strands look even better. I wanted to make sure that they were blended in properly and it didn't look weird, because I don't know how I managed to make the hair look like it was swooshing, so like tiny little waves, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm actually very proud of this hair, okay? It's the first time I'm doing really crazy wavy hair like this, and it was just amazing. I love the way I did her makeup as well. Her lipstick, her lips were also very fun to do. I was playing around with tones of pink, purple, and a little deep red as well. More pushed to the purpley side, like blue. It's had a bluer tint to it, but I really loved how it looked in the end. I love the fact that like the more I color in lips, the more I learn, the more I get to do like a fuller or more realistic lips to my illustrations. It just gives out like cute vibes. And one thing that my illustrations always have to have, blush is life. And I added some little blush, and then I just made sure that it wasn't too overboard with it. Now I'm adding and I'm deciding which colors that I'm going to do for the shadow pass. I do two shadow pass in this illustration. I do one with the purple, the light purple on multiply. I use it for her skin and a couple of details like the dress and everything, also the earrings. It looked really good. And when it comes to her hair later on, I use a darker purple. It's like a pinky purple, but it's still purple. It's still really dark purple, but it goes a little bit to the red hue. But I wanted to make sure that her hair literally shined as well, and there was depth to it. So I kind of changed the color of the shadow pass to that color. I'm actually doing it right now. To make sure that her hair looked darker than it was, but I didn't want it to be black because I don't normally use black on my illustrations anymore. I'll just use like a deeper, either a really desaturated color, or I'll just make it like really dark or something for the color that I want. And then I just played around with the opacity, also the opacity of the brush and the opacity of the eraser tool, which helped a lot when I needed to blend in some of the layers, some of the color parts of this hair, because I wanted it to literally show a little bit of depth, especially because there's a lot of curls, so there should be a lot of shadow parts in it. So I really wanted that to show as well whilst I was doing this illustration. I just kept going back and forth in the shadow pass with the darker purpley reddy tone, and then also with the light purple, and then on the overlay, which I mistakenly added a soft light to it, I changed it to overlay afterwards because I put in a blue and I was like, why can't I see the blue? Like, where's my blue? So after that, I just went and I realized that it was like on soft light, not overlay, so I just added it, and I played around with the blue on her skin to make it a little bit more purpley, and I finished it off with adding this cute line on her, like highlights on her eyelids, just to make sure that it was giving out light texture. And that was pretty much this illustration for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. This was really fun to do. Tell me what you guys thought about this illustration, and I'll catch you guys for more next week, and you guys can check out any of my videos here on the screen. Bye guys.